we've done our transition. I don't know, Elizabeth, if you have anything else to speak on as far as our current status. I know we had some funds that had some delay issues as far as the transfer, or Ron, whoever can weigh in on that. That's greatly appreciated.
As far as I know, everything's complete. There were a couple like cleanup things a couple days the week following. But I haven't received any reports or anything from them at this point. I don't know. Have you seen anything, Ron?
Oh, you're muted, Ron.
I think it was *6 to unmute.
Ron, you're muted.
That was my mistake.
Okay.
Our assets were now you can hear me. Our assets were transferred out on December 2nd, except for the cash that was in the accounts. We closed those out over a week period and moved that all to our VC bank. So we're sitting and holding quite a bit, and for good reason. Otherwise, we will want to do a cash flow, and I have done a cash flow in the last week or so, and I need to send that to Elizabeth and show her that and agree on how much money we want to hold in the account, and then. He indicated to me, the guy at the pension fund, that he had sent new wire instructions to you, Elizabeth, I think within the last week or so. And so that's what we would use then to watch. I was asking him about this transition period, and he told me that about one day after they transferred the assets in, they converted them all to their big pool. So we do have an account, but all it shows is all it's going to show is a percentage share of all of their assets. It will, he said, they will be sending out monthly statements. They're way behind on this first one, and he was hoping to have it out and sent to you, Elizabeth, by February 15th. And he said it'll show the market value of all the assets when they went in. It'll show the expenses that have been charged to our account and any revenue that has been posted to our account from this big pool. So I guess we got that to look forward to. Meg. I was sure kind of hoping that they would give me a lot of details so I could verify all the assets went in to make sure everything got in there. So I don't know. I guess I'll have to wait. See what it looks like.
Yeah, there, Ron, in the packet is the cash movement setup form that's going to allow us to move money between the state fund and BUC Bank. So that's getting taken care of. But for now, we don't have any way to get our money if we need it. So until we know when that's going to happen, I'm most comfortable just holding onto the cash we have in case something goes wrong and we can't get it.
So I just forwarded a cash movement statement that I thought you were a part of, Elizabeth, but I'm not seeing you on that email, and I don't know if you received it. We did get a cash movement. It appears to be a receipt for those funds. So I forwarded it to you and Ron. So my apologies, because I thought you were a part of that as a trustee, and maybe I'm looking at that wrong. Let me know if that's what we were seeking, and my apologies if you guys did not receive that already.
Yeah, there's not.
Brian, I did receive a copy.
Okay.
Okay.
I don't think I got that at all.
Okay. I try to forward whatever I have if I've seen.
I'm having some problems here with the internet.
Hey,
Sorry,
Ron,
you broke.
your internet is like really bad, so we can't hear hardly anything you're saying. I'm not sure if you can do anything about it, but
Yeah.
just so you know.
So I forwarded what I most recently got from FPIF. Again, if I need to I'll take a further look to see if I thought I forwarded that on if I didn't see your email in the account. So my apologies if I need to get that out beforehand. Did I come through on that?
I see it.
Can you hear me now?
Better.
Yes. Yeah, better.
Yeah, I see it. So I can see the account number. I'm not sure exactly. Well, we can go through it later because the account number I put on the form that we're supposed to submit for them is our money market account, assuming we want to hold the funds in our money market until we actually need them to, do a payroll or whatever. And that's, I'll look at the account numbers later. I don't think it's important to do exactly at this moment because we're not going to be moving any cash.
Sure. Okay. Okay. So as far as the FPIF updates, we'll just keep those on the agendas moving forward too, just until we get through this process and the understanding of it. And like I said, I'll try and do a better job of taking a look to make sure if you're not included in the email chain, to forward anything that I receive. So it looks like we're moving on to the approval of minutes from previous meeting. Need to approve last month's meeting minutes. We just need to roll call that. A motion.
Have a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve last month's meeting minutes.
Sorry, Hoff, I couldn't hit my mute button.
No, that's okay. So I'll make the motion to approve last month's meeting minutes.
I think I might have a correction. Let me look at my calendar, but I'm pretty sure I wasn't in that meeting because I think I was visiting my parents in North Carolina. But I'm gonna look at my calendar real quick.
You were here. It was the one we had in the council chambers.
Oh, okay.
Really long meeting.
That must have been like right before. That was okay. That was like the day before I left. Got it.
Okay, so Hoff made the motion.
Clap second.
Lab second. Okay. A roll call now. Hannon,
Yes.
Hoff,
Yes.
Clark,
Yes.
and Clapp.
Yes.
That passes. Thank you.
All right. So that moves. Let's see, we've got the approval of the quarterly financial report and pension benefit changes. Ron.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep. Can you hear me?
I apologize. Apparently I was having some problems with my internet. I shut the video off, hoping maybe that would help it. But so did you guys catch what I said earlier about the FPIP, the pension fund?
Not really.
Okay, well, I'll quickly kind of go over that then. I talked to him. He transferred all of our assets into their big pool on December 2nd. I asked him when they would be having some statements. He said he was hoping to have those sent out on February 15th, and then thereafter, about 15 days after the end of the month. So when we get that statement, we can look to see, but I don't know how much detail it's going to have. I think it's going to show the market value when he transferred our assets in, and that's going to be a percentage of their total pool. He's going to show the expenses that were charged through our fund, and he's going to show the income, our percentage share of the income that came through their big pool. So I kind of look forward to seeing what that looks like. On the financial report, if you notice, if you looked at the investments, I went ahead and put in all of the investments in detail that we had at the time we transferred them over. I wanted to just show you what the market values were when we sent them over there. And I will hopefully be able to, look at all of those and make sure that that agrees or pretty close to what they're showing when they transferred it in. Our equities, when we transferred our equities, we're at 74%. That shows how much we had earned over, the last couple of years, even though 65%, of course, is the limit. And those for the fiscal year, October through December, our equities earned 6%. So they had a good quarter. The last quarter, we were about negative 0.5. So we were about break even at first quarter. They earned 6% on the second quarter. We have a lot of money in our cash account of UC, probably over $5 million because of the transfers in from Edward Jones and Morgan Stanley on their money market. And that had built up because we told them not to buy anything as those things matured for those last 6 months or so. So we do have to do a cash flow. I've done a cash flow. I need to send that to Elizabeth, let her and I make sure we agree on how much money we need and how long we want to hold, have that money there. And then we need to, by law, transfer that back to that fund. In the changes in the benefits paid during the quarter, we had Phil Edwards. He turned 55 in September, so he got his 3% increase in October. And we had Mary Ostendorf. Larry passed away, or she passed away in October, and so she received a partial in October. And I don't know of any planned benefit changes in January, February, or March for anybody. So I'll answer any questions if somebody has one. Otherwise, entertain a motion. Oh, I know. Yeah, I wanted to talk about the raises, the January raises. I sent the list out of those and showed which people did not get a raise because there were not 55. And there was 1, 2, 3, 4 of those. And one disability pensioner is not 60, so he did not receive a raise. Otherwise, they received 3% for their regular pension and 3% of the original pension for the disabled. Now, there was an error that was on my original sheet. Bob Mullins, I did not have the right amount. I had not given them their 3%. So I caught that, and I have a new sheet, and I will send that to you, April, a corrected sheet. And I have verified those totals in a couple different ways, those numbers. So that's all I have.
Thank you, Ron. I'd like to make a motion to accept the quarterly financial report and pension benefit changes.
Second,
Okay, roll call. Clark,
yes.
Clapp,
Yes.
Hannon,
Yes.
Hoff.
Yes.
Okay. Brian, I was just going to add one thing just for your information. The police pension fund now their transition has been delayed to May 1st.
Okay. Good to know. Thank you. Perfect. Can you guys see me, by the way? Okay. I normally see myself. I'm like eating chips. So now I know. I'll be hiding behind paper.
All right. Do we have any public input?
No.
Awesome. So we'll move on to new business. Section A is the cash management procedures reference for the state investment pool.
Yeah, so there is a form in the packet that we were asked to submit that identifies who are the 4 people that can do transactions and what their authority is. And so one of those can be somebody who is not a trustee, but that person has to be appointed as a non-voting trustee. And so I think, Brian, you had some communication with the others, but the list is Ingold, Hoff, myself, and then Chris Francisco, because she will normally be the first person who knows between her and Carla when we actually need to move cash, to cover.
Got- Okay, yeah, this was one that Dobie and I were like, I'm not sure what they're looking for, because maybe you talked to Dobie and not me. So what you would do, we've got like a resolution that you guys would pass so that Francisco had the authority to be on the global cash movement portal. So if you want to go ahead and make a motion, I'm sure we could back into it. I could draft one real quick for you guys to sign off on.
There's actually a resolution in the packet.
Oh, there is? Oh, let me see. Okay,
Right. I mean, we could modify it, but I think I came up with it. I can't remember what my source was for the format, whether they provided an example or
Yeah,
something.
so they submitted one for us. I thought the resolution actually came with it, if I'm not mistaken, didn't it, Elizabeth?
Yeah, I've like had so many papers going through my office in the last month, but yes, I think so. I'm not gonna promise, but I think so.
All right, let me see here. Resolution.
So I will mention, just while we're talking about it, because I just had a conversation with Dobie, and one of his concerns is the why if of needing a non-voting member, and he had a major concern for a non-voting member touching money. And so I guess the question of because I think, Elizabeth, you and I have talked, if we as a board are agreeing to move money at the meeting, or we need to call a meeting to move money, I guess I'm just not understanding why there would be the need for her to be an authorized person. I do agree she'd be the best person if needed. I guess I'm just trying to understand why it'd be needed when we have the authorized agents. And to follow that up, is there any financial liability or exposure if the other trustees aren't aware of a movement, and it's just one agent and a non-voting member moving money? You know what I mean?
Hey, Hoff, I don't think the way they've got it set up on here is that Francisco cannot approve a transfer. She could put in for one, and then
Right.
either yourself or Josh would have to be the final approver. It's almost like the iPhone, where it's the two-part authentication.
Right.
So-
Sure.
I filled out the form that way intentionally. Nobody can do anything alone. Everybody requires a second approval. So Chris can do it, and one of the other 3 of us can approve it. She can initiate it, but she doesn't have the approval authority ever. And all 3
Right.
of us, one of us could initiate it, and another one of the 3 could approve it.
Right. And so I guess my concern is if you approve, right, and we have that's where I wanted to incorporate something in the policy, so the other 2 trustees, because if you and her have a conversation and Josh and I are unaware of the money movement, and again, taking names out of it, as this moves forward in the future, it won't be all of us. And so I guess just trying to keep consistency of notification to, hey, money moved, just be aware, because it's an authorization, but if just the treasurer and Chris at this time makes that movement, the other 2 trustees could be unaware of the money movement. Does that make sense, what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, so what, I mean, I get what you're saying. What do you want to do about it? That's what
That's the piece, yeah.
What's that?
I think I think I'm on the same page as Elizabeth is. It's like, what's the other piece then? What you want to do about it? If this is a part of the resolution that come from the above requirement from them, then we're structuring this so at least Chris is in.
Well, again, I thought
puzzled,
the
but
intent was if we had another management company that was making that, I thought that was what the intent of the approval form was. So if you had a Lauterbach and Hammond that was making the approval, then that's why they incorporated that piece in there, because Lauterbach and Hammond isn't a voting member, and if they're managing the fund, then you would take an authorized agent to sign. However, we're doing ours internally. So if it was Chris and Elizabeth making the decision, how would Josh and I be aware unless we incorporate that into the policy that, hey, because otherwise the fund transitions are just happening in the meetings, correct? So it would kind of be null to do this.
So, I guess I have to think about that. I think in the past, there has been cash movement without a specific authorization in a board meeting. And I think that's been true for years and years and years. Like if we need to move money from a money market to make the pension payroll or something. I could be wrong because I haven't been the one doing that. Maybe Ron could help us with that. But there are times, I mean, one of my concerns is you guys are working every third day generally, except I know Hoff, you get a ton of overtime, but, and if we need to cover payroll and we need two people to authorize and we can't get a hold of somebody, then we're going to be in a bind. So that's what we're trying to address, but you guys can change it any way you want.
Sure, I'm just calling forth what Dobie had mentioned, and I thought it was a viable concern just to be aware. His thing is always touching money, and so I was posing the question, and that's merely I just wanted to bring it before the board and say, is this a necessity? I mean, if we should be well aware, that we're not going to be making payroll or taxes have been delayed or anything like that, and so. If it's a major need, I guess I was just clarifying, do we want more hands in the pot? And so that's fine if the answer is yes, but if it's not, I think the intent of the FBIF with that, and I may be wrong, Brian, you can jump in, but was if you had a servicing company that was still performing the payroll management. So a Lauterbach and Hammond that they could sit in, they're non-voting, but they are, hey, we're going to notify you that we need to transition those assets.
So essentially you have that, you just don't have Lauterbach, right? So what
Correct.
you have is we've agreed that the city's going to do that for the pension fund, right? So Carla primarily does that with Chris as her supervisor. So you have that, it's just not Lauterbach.
Right, exactly. And that's what I'm saying is I understand, and these people do a great job of that. I'm just saying as we move forward in the future, will we be able to maintain that? And before we set policy forth, is that, congruent with where we're headed with it. So that was all.
Can I just make a suggestion? This may not be something we can do. I don't know. I've not been involved in the setup of these accounts, but usually like when you have dual controls that we're talking about now, there's some notification element that can happen through the system where we can set up an alert or something. The other trustees can set up an alert to be notified of any transactions that are occurring. That could be a way to alleviate some of your concerns, but still handle it this way.
Yeah, I don't think we know.
Sure.
So I think we can change this probably anytime we want. At this point, we don't even have access to whatever the system is, so we don't even know what it can do. They really haven't given us any information. So, I mean, I'm open to whatever you want to suggest. If you just want to say, hey, you want an email notification. I mean, I agree that for the most part, this stuff is pretty predictable. The payroll is going to be a certain amount every month. We don't have much AP. The big thing, and I'm hoping this is fixed, is that property taxes for a couple of years were very unpredictable. Like we had no idea, and we didn't really know, even when it wasn't showing up on time, we didn't know when it was going to show up. Now I'm hoping that's resolved. The new county treasurer seems to have it under control. But that kind of thing probably would be the most likely reason why something wouldn't be predictable. But if we're looking at each quarterly meeting and we're looking at here's what we think the cash flow is for the next quarter, I think at that point we know what we need for the next quarter, and we build in a little bit of cushion. But I can't speak for what's going to happen with the county. I can't say that's never going to happen again. Who knows?
Sure. I'm more than willing to accept the resolution as is. I just was bringing up the point that we're not going to always be the same players in the position, and I'm trying to build a system at least of notification as it moves on and players change, and the clarity of the funds and how those changes are getting put forward, and keeping good record of it, nonetheless, to make sure that it's making it to the minutes, and we're keeping good track since it's part of this large pool of investment now.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, we can make sure to keep you in the loop. At this point, we can't do anything anyhow.
Sure. That's fine.
For you and Ingold on different shifts?
No, we're same shift
Oh, lovely.
currently.
I was going to say, because you don't
Currently.
have to, you don't have to add a fourth person, just so you know. But yeah, so if you guys are both off shift, and Elizabeth and Christine need to take care of business, as long as I think they notify you, would you feel comfortable with that?
Yeah, I mean, again, taking the names out of it, I just want to ensure that, there's some form of notification, so that, as in the future, if players change, we have a record or a notification that the funds are moving. So that was the overall. And I think that was Dobie's general concern is, do we want to put more hands in the pot, especially, to try and manage that. So I'm good with, like I said, I'm good with having Chris, knowing that she is making those forecasts already, along with Carl, of payroll. Again, I just wanted to clarify so that we get notice. So.
Okay.
So I feel like maybe somebody, and I can do this, should make a motion to accept the cash movement form, and then we need a separate motion on the resolution. Does that sound right?
Yeah, or if you want to read them together, that'd be fine too.
Okay, I'm gonna make a motion that we accept, or we authorize our president to sign the global cash movement setup form as presented, and that we accept the resolution appointing Chris Francisco as a non-voting trustee.
Second.
Roll call. Hoff,
Yeah.
yes. Clark,
Yes.
Hannon,
Yes.
Clapp.
Yes.
It looks like that moves, and we can make a note. I'd like to make a note to figure out, or for next meeting agenda, just to evaluate that form. Brian, I'll communicate with you so that we can figure out a form of notification once we get into that system, and we can identify that moving forward if everyone's okay with that. So
Absolutely.
Yeah, most systems have the ability to give you those notifications. So I'd be surprised if we didn't find a way to do that. But that's a good
Perfect.
idea to keep track of it. So, yep, for next time.
Thank you. Okay, looks like we're moving on to the audit report for June 30th.
Yes, you have in your packet the audit report from Baker Tilly. I mean, I guess the good news is there's really nothing to see here. There's no problems. The net position increased by 14 million, and I think just because of a really good year in the market, the fund is according to this report, nearly 100% funded. So I don't know, Ron, do you have anything you want to add? Or I think Ron's back in the,
I don't think he's on, is he?
it says he is, but I don't see him.
I know. I lost him in the participant panelist. I lost him there.
Oh, he's
Should be
back.
able to talk.
He's back in the attendees and not in the participants. I don't know what's going on.
Ron, can you talk? He's back there now. Barama, are you able to unmute Ron Eldridge?
Okay.
Yes,
There you go.
yes.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Fine.
Got me? I'm sorry. Sorry again. I'm having some real problems here this morning. No, the numbers are exactly the same as what we talked about back in July on my report. So now a great year, an incredible year, and a good report. What can I say?
I will just note for you all that we're going through the auditor selection process now for a new auditor for the city, and they've given us pricing for pension funds as well. The one possibility is that we would continue with Baker Tilly, but we had, I don't know, Shannon, like half a dozen proposals.
Yeah, we had 5. Yeah.
We, Elizabeth, it should be a lot different audit as far as the pension funds next year. I mean, they spend a great deal of time verifying those market values of all of our individual assets, and 7 or 8 pages of that. And now all of a sudden they're just going to have one number from this pension fund. So,
Yep.
Okay, so we want to make a motion to accept the audit report for June 21. I'll make the motion.
Second.
Or was that Clapp and Hannon?
Sure.
Roll call. Hoff,
Yes.
Clark,
Yes.
Clapp,
Yes.
Hannon.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on, we've got the fiduciary liability insurance renewal.
So we have, unfortunately, our policy renews February 1st, which is a real pain because we're always meeting at the very tail end of January. So our current premium for fire pension is $37.06. The proposed premium is $37.16. And I have repeatedly let them know that our investments are being consolidated, and that, just asking, shouldn't that have some impact on the premium here? Because we're not making investment decisions, which seems to me like a big part of the potential liability, right? Apparently they do not view it that way. So proposed premium is $37.16. I guess it's possible that it might have gone up a lot more if we still were managing the investments. I don't know. So I guess the question is, I probably need to let them know today, if possible, whether we want to renew or not. I mean, I think it's always a good idea to have fiduciary liability coverage. So.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Can you say how much it went up again? I apologize. Oh, you're on mute.
$10. It went from $37.06 to $37.16.
Oh, okay.
Oh, but I was hoping it would go down.
Yeah, I guess that's the question, is at what point is this, what protection is the liability insurance offering? So I guess I would need clarification on what we're covering. I do agree with the investment side of things and the touching of money, and the opportunity for some major things to occur, that having the coverage is much needed. But I guess my question is what are we currently protecting ourselves from if it's now being managed overall by the state?
Yeah, I mean, maybe Brian can comment, but I think there are also decisions on the benefit side that we're protected on with fiduciary liability. So
I can feel that question. So a majority of all the claims that come in against pension funds have nothing to do with your fiduciary responsibility with cash movement. Most of it comes from disability pension claims, retirement claims, and everything else. Granted, you don't have, you really won't have to deal with the money, but you're still going to have money at the local level. Do remember that. And
Sure.
while they say that you're no longer a fiduciary for the funds that are invested, you still have to have a CYA for anything in a local fund. Where this is to your benefit is if, let's say, we have a disability that goes wrong and it goes through appeals, that triggers coverage for your fund. So you're not paying out-of-pocket costs for attorneys to either support or defend your decision. And then this also goes to when individual trustees are sued in their personal capacities, whether because anybody can sue anybody. We all know that. And it could be BS, it could be legitimate. And I don't work for the insurance companies, but I've sat through enough of these renewal things and saw the statistics. I'd say at least like 99% are for your other duties aside from money movement, because you've got professionals that help you with that along the way. So you're generally not held accountable for that because you're getting advice from them and you're making a decision that's informed. But I think until they take away disability, hearings from you guys or benefit payment, I mean, urging on caution, I would continue to maintain that.
Okay, thanks, Brian. I really appreciate it.
No problem.
So I'll just put a motion out there. I'll make a motion that we renew our fiduciary liability coverage through the city's insurance broker for an annual amount of $37.16.
I'll second.
Roll call. Clark,
Yes.
Clapp,
Yes.
Hannon,
Yes.
and Hoff.
Yes.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, moving on. Motion pass. We've got the new hires of Wynn Burroughs, Tier 2 employee, started 11/8/21. New hire Drake Royal, Tier 2 as well, 11/8/21. I believe Josh has gone over any prior service and has also reviewed some of their pension documentation forms and physicals. Guess we can keep those separate. So I'll make a motion to accept Wynn Burroughs and Drake Royal into the fund.
Second, Clapp.
Roll call. Clark,
Yes.
Hannon,
Yes.
Hoff,
Yes.
and Clapp.
Yes.
For item G, we've got it listed as resignation, and I guess I'll just look for clarification on this. Ashley Verkler is eligible for retirement benefits due to the Tier 2 statute, and we calculated as such. She hasn't made an official request, at least to me. I've kind of reached out to her twice. I've not heard back. As far as the position, she had weighed her options of cashing out or of keeping in. I think we gave her some numbers. I reached out to Elizabeth, and Chris had put together a sheet basically doing the calculations to kind of give her the information so that she can make an informed decision. We have not received anything. So as far as she's technically eligible for retirement benefit as a tier 2 employee. So I don't know if we need to just acknowledge that she's resigned or technically can be eligible for retirement benefit. And according to Lauterbach and Ammon, no one has challenged this position yet. It's just kind of under assumption that the employee is eligible, similar to such of an IMRF employee. At age 55, they can draw after 10 years of service. Ashley has completed 10 years of service, so she would be entitled to such benefit if that assumption carries.
So we just treat it as a deferred pension, and I assume since she hasn't told us she would have to tell us she wanted to withdraw the funds, and she hasn't. So we assume she wants
Correct.
to keep it in, which
Yeah,
makes good financial sense in the long run.
for sure. Yeah.
You've done your due diligence at this point and told her options. So if she doesn't request to withdraw, you guys continue to earn interest on her contributions she's paid in so far. And until such point as she indicates that she wants them, let it work for you. I mean, it's just sitting there in the bank for her essentially and helping you guys.
Sure. So it probably makes sense to list her as a deferred pensioner until the point of such, right? Is that correct? Because I'm kind of with Elizabeth. At this point, she's considerably a deferred pensioner for the liability sake of the fund.
Sure. Yeah,
As long
I
as
would say so. And I think
Okay.
that would probably help for all your GASB and accounting purposes that she's listed as such, so it doesn't get thrown off. And then it can be readjusted if she changes her mind.
So okay. So I think that would just be the clerical point, is to change resignation to a deferred pensioner status, just so that she's not omitted from the books and she still shows of the liability in the overall calculation. So
Yeah.
So I'll make a motion to move Ashley Verkler as a deferred pensioner and to be tracked as such. Is that a good motion to make? I mean, would that cover kind of what we're trying to do there?
I would say so, until further notice, so that the.
Can we add the official date that she resigned?
Yeah.
I don't have it in front of me, but I can get it.
It's 11/26/21, Ron.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Okay, so I'll make that motion to move Ashley Verkler to a deferred pensioner status effective of 11/26/21. So
Second,
anything changes.
Roll call, Clap,
Yes.
Clark,
Yes.
Hannon,
yes.
Hoff.
Yes.
I think just for information, I think that was, Brian, I think that was the first tier 2 pension that we had to calculate.
Oh, absolutely.
That's correct. I think we might be one of the first in this. I've asked around through the AFFI, and I'm not so sure that we're not the first fire tier 2 calculation as far as like a retirement draw. Because I actually asked at the conference of Lauterbach and Ammon, and they had not officially run one as well as far as a collection. But Brian, you might be able to weigh in further on that.
Yeah, the only other one I know of, and it's a really weird case, it's a police retirement where it was one of those situations where it was IMRF department, and then they got big enough to go to Article 3. So when they did that original conversion, the IMRF people became tier 2, and there's been something else ever since to roll that back. But the guy is actually in prison now. So the fight is whether to move him to tier 1. I don't know what we're doing with that. But yeah, between you guys and this jailbird, it's the only thing I've heard of for Article 2 retirements.
Hey, Brian, another thing we might note is do you have that calculation in front of you that shows the date that she's then eligible? Because that's quite a ways into the future.
Are you asking me, Ron? Are you asking Hoff or Strand?
No, I'm asking Brian Hoff.
Oh,
Yeah, so we we do have it. I can forward. Basically, Chris Francisco put together a spreadsheet. It was actually really nice. It because it requires so many of the correct me if I'm wrong now, because the state statute changed. I think it was highest of the last 4 consecutive of 5 years.
Yeah.
Final average salary. The payroll software was able to address that and omit things from that to make sure that those contributions were direct of that final average salary. So able to minus certain factors out of that. So I can forward that to you, and we can also. Do you think it would be wise to put that towards the minutes or into the file, or what are your thoughts on that?
Hey, Brian, I had done a calculation. I think you sent me or somebody sent me, and I had done the exact same calculation. So I'll contact Chris if we're going to both do it, which is a good idea. We should both do it. We should probably coordinate those numbers before we make sure they're in agreement before we give them to the individual. And
yeah, and I think they were a few dollars off, Ron, now that you mentioned that, not because I do remember seeing that. And I think Elizabeth and I spoke on that, and there was some discrepancy between the two. So I think that's probably a good point to figure out that we've got all those in line.
Right.
I'll contact Chris Francisco and ask her to send that to me. So, and then just mention to her that, in the future, why don't we coordinate together on our numbers and make sure that, that if I've got an error, that way I can find it. And if we disagree somewhere, we can reconcile it.
Especially since this is the first one, and just to get the practice to make sure how it is going to be structured in the future. So we are all on the same page.
Okay, and to be clear, I think it's impossible for Ron to have all the information at his fingertips, because the way that it's structured in tier 2, we have to pull that data from the payroll system. So I did review it for her. I don't know if Carla had a chance to look at it, but I'm pretty comfortable with what she's done, but we're going to have to talk about if we're going to be sharing that data routinely. It's not something that I want sent by email, because there's, sensitive information in there about her whole payroll and all the different kinds of, leave that she's taken. And then we take all that data about her pay for each pay period for every pay type and kind of then filter out everything that's not pensionable. So there's potentially information in there that's sensitive and should not be shared by email. So,
well, I don't want to argue whether it's sensitive or not, but the salaries and that is really can be public information if someone submits a freedom of information. But I agree, we need to do it together. And you may have better information than me. That's a good reason. But on this tier 2, it's really difficult because the Department of Insurance is not calculating this pension yet, like they do on tier 1, where we can go in and double check everything. So there's a lot of interpretation as to what the law and the numbers are. But I think you're probably right. Your numbers are probably very better. I just would like to I just think we ought to compare them to make sure, for my own educational information, to make sure that I understand if I made an error somewhere or didn't have the right information.
That's fine. We just have to figure out how we're going to share it. Like, I don't know physically whether you're in town, if we can drop off a USB stick at the finance front desk, but just contact Chris and she'll figure out how to get it to you.
Okay. And on that subject, I had emailed Elizabeth just because of the liability of this being the first one, and I had asked, is this something we want to run through? A lot of economic sense they had not had, since we have not had one, just to ensure that. But I think as long as the numbers are in agreement and we think the benefit, we can discuss this more as we have time. But if that's something that we would like to consider too, is so that if there is a dispute later on, If they've, I don't know. Again, there's been no ruling as far as the benefit disbursement for a tier 2 fire employee to draw at age 55. And so it was very hard to provide the information, not knowing if, that's how it will play out. So.
I know, Brian, at one point you were thinking about having Lauterbach review this calculation, but I'm gathering you talked to them, but you didn't have them review it, because that would be like confirmation of our methodology. They do more pension calculations in Illinois than probably anybody.
Correct. Yeah, that's what I was saying is if we wanted to spend the money to have them review this process, or to ensure that we came with the same number, to know that yes, our system is validated and they've come to it. That's why I mentioned that if we want to do one and say yes, we've come to the same methods, or we've used the same methods that they have, or if we're providing that same information to them, I'm fine with that too, just as long as we're confident in our ability to do the tier 2 calculation, because we're approaching the time period now where I think we've got 18 members eligible. And Ron, you probably know better than I do as far as tier 1 employees going to be exiting. We're hiring 9 tier 2 members next month, or they start in a couple weeks, 2 weeks. So we're going to start flip-flopping our percentage of tier 1 to tier 2. So we may have a substantial amount of tier 2 employees that are starting to reach their 10-year and can be making, that transition and decide to leave. So, and one of the actuarials actually said that at our conference. He said, we are seeing a lot of people transitioning out and making the moves out of the fire service, sooner than the normalized 20, 30-year career. So.
Yeah, I would I think it would be a good idea to have Lauterbach take a look, just to make sure they agree with the way that we've done it. I mean, I think just this once probably is enough, unless we get into something really unusual. And even though there haven't been many, I'm convinced they do most of the pension benefit calculations in the state, and they will be doing others. So I think they'll be really careful to be thoughtful about that, and it'll be consistent with how they're doing other calculations for tier 2.
Okay. Do we want to add that to this month's? Do we want to make that motion to get that information to them now, or do we want to hold that for next meeting? And I can find out. Hopefully, I can send out a letter to find out if she's claimed her status to do the deferred pension before we spend money on that.
Because if she actually just wants to pull it, that'll calculate differently. So should we get an answer from her?
Yeah, I'll send her a Sorry?
I was going to say, my question isn't necessarily about her in particular, but about the methodology. So
Sure.
I think we should do it regardless. And if she pulls her money, she does, but we still have confirmation that we have the methodology right for the next time.
I guess, especially since, Brian, you think we're getting ready to step to that next tier and start doing that. Yeah, she's just a guinea pig. Whether the result is a result, she's just giving us the numbers to play the game to see if it's functioning correctly. So yeah, what's going to make the difference? Yeah, I understand what Elizabeth's saying. So yeah.
But we didn't specifically have this on the agenda. So can we make a motion and take an action?
That's what I was going to say is we can just put it on next month's agenda, and then that'll give us time to get that information over, and also to move through it a little bit. And I do want to find out if she's moving that direction, because if we don't see another tier 2 calculation for 10 years and it's challenged in court, did we waste money to get there to find out that again, that's a best guess is that we'll see another one, but we may not see another one for 10 years because our next eligible may elect to stay the full 20 years. So would everyone be okay if we just put it on next month's agenda and we can call it and
Yes.
Then approve it for next month? So we'll just move that to next month's agenda of reaching out to Lauterbach and Hammond.
Next quarter?
I'm sorry,
Next quarter.
next quarter. Yes, thank you. I'm sorry. Okay, I think that's everything then. Next quarterly meeting is Friday, April 29th, 9:30. Does that work for everyone?
Yes.
There is a conference. I think Ingold and I are going to be attending another pension conference in April. So if there's any questions in the meantime. Other than that, we'll have a motion to adjourn.
I have a question about that. So
Sure.
some of us aren't getting information about pension training opportunities, and we have a continuing education requirement. So when
Sure.
you guys are getting information about pension conferences, can you share? Because I don't think Shannon and I really get anything
so-
other than through IGFOA, but we have the same requirement for education.
So we just get ours through the local, through the union for the firefighters side of it. So I didn't know if you guys are attending the city version of that, which I think is run by IPPFA, and that covers both police and fire, which we opt to not take the ones that are police and fire because it's just confusing for us. And since neither of us sit on the police board, that's why we no longer do the IPPFAs.
So I get nothing from my PPFA. I get nothing from them, and I don't think Shannon does either. The
Okay.
only other opportunity I have, which doesn't always work with my schedule, is through Illinois Government Finance Officers Association. So, I mean, I think in the past I've shared the IGFOA stuff that you guys are welcome to attend. So if we could just, maybe shoot out an email to make sure that we all have the most opportunities
Sure.
to meet our continuing education.
So our difficulty would be attending. Can we attend due to the open meetings? Because we can only send 2 at a time, correct?
Everybody can go to training if you're not
Training.
discussing public business.
Okay.
Otherwise, you
I
can
was
never
not-
hang out. Yeah. Elizabeth, are you guys members of the IPPFA through the police fund?
Yes,
I think we are,
Yes.
but I get nothing. I get
Let
no
me-
communication.
Let me grab somebody else's packet and I'll scan and email you all the training opportunities that I've got in the other packets right now. That might be helpful for you.
Because I
So
think
we're
I'm,
paying IPPFA as well for fire. I've seen that fee charged to us as a IPPFA member for $800. So if we're not using it, we could definitely save the fund in that respect. Correct?
well, but
Yeah.
I think I'm in the same boat Elizabeth is. When I see certain things from them, it's like, okay, you kicked me a note. You didn't give me opportunities to train. I can't figure out where I truly stand on calculating how many more hours I need or anything. So I think I've ran
Okay.
into that problem trying to, okay, do I need it? Do I not need it? There's just a missing piece of a puzzle.
Yeah, so they've changed the hours down to the 8 hours, I believe. And so each conference is, so like that last conference that I sent you, Clap, that was just as long as you jumped online and reviewed the material, they were giving credit to trustees for that.
And
So
I got
can
that one.
forward that stuff. Okay, so yeah, I can forward that stuff. Elizabeth, I apologize. I didn't know if you guys wanted to do fire only, or if you wanted to continue to do police and fire as a joint. I assumed that you guys were doing the joint one just since you both sit on both boards there for police and fire. So if you want, I can send you the firefighter, but it's only geared towards the AFFI position.
Yeah, I mean, anything you can share helps. Like, for example, I know there's an IGFOA training coming up that kind of covers both, but I don't know that I'm available to do it then. So at last year, I kind of ended up at the last minute, kind of scrambling to find some training to meet the requirement.
Okay. Well, I will definitely share whatever opportunities that we get, and if that works for you guys' schedule, we can coordinate that. The next one, like I said, is in April, and I believe it's over in East Peoria or Peoria, one of the others. So I'll try and get that information out.
Hey, Brian, can I ask you, are they, or not, Strand, not Hoff?
Yep.
Are they kind of interchangeable? So like if I go to let's say I end up going to a fire pension thing this year.
Yeah.
Does that meet my training requirement for police pension also, or do I end up
It
having?
It does. Yeah, you'll be fine. And I'm actually looking through some of our other board packets because I was going to scan and send you what I have. Yeah, so long as you're meeting the 8-hour requirement, you're good to go. So no worries on that, you know. And I think so. I know the East Peoria conference is in person only, but their fall conference is going to be either all online or a hybrid. And then as far as AFFI training or IPFA, I am not sure. I haven't seen any materials, but I'll look and send them to you.
Okay, yeah, and I'll send you guys, there's an IGFOA one, so I think I sent that last year, but I'll make sure you guys have that again, and if you need help registering with them, I can help you with that. Shannon and I are both members of that organization. And a lot of times they rely pretty heavily on Lauterbach for some of it and several law firms, so they do a pretty good job.
Yeah, and then sorry, since I started on this in October, can someone remind me what the time frame is, or I can look it up later? But the 8 hours are between what time frame? Like, is there a date? Like my CPA is on September 30th, but does anyone?
So I think you have the 16-hour now new member orientation, and then 8 hours continual forever. Brian, is that correct?
Shannon's completed the whole IPPFA initial trustee training under the old rules.
With the police.
Gotcha. Okay. The
Yeah,
32-hour. Okay.
You're grandfathered in, so you get to do the 8 additional training each year. And then if you haven't done the consolidation training, which kind of seems like a moot point since it's already happened for you guys, 4-hour training. So I believe that's offered online for free through the consolidated board.
Okay, thank you.
And then any certifications, I think, just get forwarded to Josh, and then he puts it in the file for the audit. So if you get any certifications from those trainings, Josh files them away with the pension training for the audit.
I'll find the email I sent to Josh and the police pension secretary last year, Shannon,
Okay.
so you can see kind of how I've done it.
Great.
I'll forward you guys some of the PowerPoints from our last conference as well, because they were pretty informative. I can't remember if I forwarded them to you, but they were weighed in by Lauterbach and Emmon. And then also we had some attorney review from the AFFI attorney as far as case law stuff. So I can send that as well.
Thank you for that.
Okay, looks like we can adjourn, make a motion to adjourn. Did we already do that? I'm sorry.
No, but I have really quick, Brian, can we decide for the next meeting? Do you guys want to try to do in person or Zoom, or you want to wait to see how COVID's behaving in end of April?
I'll let Elizabeth weigh in on that because she's probably the COVID decider.
Well, I'm not the COVID decider for the pension board.
I know, but if the city's doing one, I think we probably ought to just stick with that format.
I don't know, that could change, right? I mean, the city's been doing remote meetings like city council for a long time. I think the safest thing to do is plan to do it remotely. And if something really changes, then we can talk about whether we might want to do it in person. I'm not convinced we're done with COVID. And like today, if you guys had said we're meeting in person, I probably would not have attended because I would not feel safe knowing how much COVID we have going around at the city. So.
Okay, that's fine. I'll just plan on Zoom, and sorry about the delay. I think we've got that worked out. So next time will be a little smoother.
At least you guys showed up.
Yeah.
I've driven 2 hours and then there's been no quorum at several places. So
Awesome. Thank you. We'll make a motion to adjourn. Is everybody good? Everybody good with that, sir?
Yeah, second.
Okay, roll call. Hannon,
Yes.
Clark,
Yeah.
Clapp,
Yes.
and Hoff.
Yeah. Okay, thank
good
you.
night, everybody.
Bye.